Ready?
1 second.
It's a recording.
It's recording.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unforced Errors. What number episode is it, David?
23.
23?
Oui.
So you're joining us, I think, exactly a week after the French Open tournament ended. So, David, how was the French Open tournament for you?
It was very exciting tournament, actually. I enjoyed it very much. Did you?
Best you've ever seen?
No, but the best I've ever seen probably has to be one of those where my hero wins. Did you enjoy the French Open this year?
I did. I think it was long overdue, especially in the men's. A 5-set final. I know just because it's 5 sets doesn't mean a match is a classic. You can get a bad 5-set match.
True.
And a very good 3-set match. But I think it was crying out for a 5-set final. It was also, apologies to 33% of our listeners, but I think it was crying out for a final without Nadal in, maybe, and a different winner. Great though Nadal is, and it's only fair the best man wins. It was a changing of the guard. It might have been an older guy who won it, but I think tennis needed that change.
No Nadal in the final. How pleased was I? I have great respect for Nadal. He's an amazing player. But thank God it's over.
Is it over? Is he going to come back? There was a poll, I think, on Eurosport when he was still in the tournament this year, saying how many can he win? And
15.
People went for the second highest choice.
Yes.
So is the Wicked Witch dead?
He's dead. No more Nadal.
No more. Has Djokovic just opened the floodgates to other people, or will Djokovic himself be the top dog? And
Yes.
he is the double Grand Slam winner, isn't he? He's now won each Grand Slam twice, so I think it's called a career Grand Slam.
Yes.
And he's a double career Grand Slam, and almost as amazing as him winning the French Open twice, he's beaten Nadal twice at the French Open. So my question to you, David, is do you think Djokovic has underachieved at the French Open? Should he have beaten Nadal more often at the French Open? Has Djokovic underachieved, or do you think it's a fair reflection in his career of where he is in terms of he's only beaten Nadal twice at the French Open?
I would say 19 Grand Slams, beating Nadal twice in the empire that belongs to Nadal. I think his things are meant to be the way they are. But it's all over now, man. It's all over. 19 Grand Slams. He's still young. He beat Nadal and Federer in their kingdoms. He's breaking all the records. He has the Grand Slam of the year, not the same year, but 4 Grand Slams in a row. He's on the way to a second. He beat Nadal twice. How many times did he beat Federer at Wimbledon?
He's beaten him in 3 finals.
3 finals. It's like, who's the best ever? And what about the head-to-head? I, as a Federer fan, have surrendered. I am very grateful.
You're flying the white flag on this show.
It's all over. I love what Federer did. It's really great. He had a beautiful career, and it's getting harder and harder. And I think Djokovic, if he continues like this, he even gets to 25, 26 Grand Slams. What do you think?
I'm going to throw a crumb of comfort to the Federer fans out there, asking you what happened the last time when Djokovic won the French Open and after he won his first career Grand Slam. What happened after that? Can you remember?
I think he dropped for a while, didn't he?
He dropped. It was quite an alarming drop. He lost interest in tennis. I think his coaching staff said he wasn't putting in the hours in terms of training. So maybe crumb of comfort for Federer fans. Just remember, Djokovic never wins Wimbledon after winning the French Open.
That's definitely comforting. As a Federer fan, I always have hope that Federer wins another Wimbledon or 2. That guy created magic in so many different ways. So yes, I never lose hope. But that was a long time ago. That was a different Djokovic. So I don't think Djokovic is like that anymore. He does have the drops in interest, but did you notice how different he was in this tournament? He was calm and composed throughout the whole tournament, other than that scream of madness at the end versus...
Well, Berrettini was a useful player, gave Djokovic some problems on the clay, so it wasn't all straightforward for Djokovic. But if you were Djokovic, would you have kind of given up before the Nadal match this year? Because he got comprehensively trounced in the French Open final, the last French Open final in October.
That gave him strength. You could feel it.
I honestly thought before the match, and I think I told people this, I bet my car, maybe not my house, I bet my car on Nadal winning fairly comfortably
If you
against
had a car?
Djokovic. If I had a car, yes. My son's toy car then, okay, his toy car collection. I could not see Djokovic beating Nadal. And although I think we both backed Tsitsipas to win the tournament,
No.
I was thinking, what a fool to do that before Nadal got knocked out.
Yes. I think this is the first time in 23 UFEs that my prediction came true.
What did Stephen predict?
Tsitsipas.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, or Nadal. He was very open to both.
Yeah. And got neither.
Got neither. And who wiped both? It was Djokovic.
Yeah, he cleaned up.
Yes.
Like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver.
Exactly. No, look, we can talk about Djokovic for a long time. We have to talk about lots of different things, but there's another thing that is pretty impressive about Djokovic. Djokovic has a willpower to win when he's in trouble that is far beyond what Federer and Nadal have. Federer and Nadal wanted so much that
It eats them up.
it eats them up, whereas Djokovic accepts defeat in a way that none of those two do. And then there's definitely the final against Tsitsipas and the match against the Italian called
Matteo. Matuso?
Mazzetti.
Mazzetti sounds like a sports car, doesn't it? What a
true,
fantastic
actually.
backhand he had, actually. Really,
He did. It's
really good. You've got some
yes.
things to say about him, haven't you?
I don't know if anyone noticed. I'm sure lots of people noticed that Djokovic, when he wants to win, he wins. That's it.
I think a lot of pundits thought, even when he was 2 sets down,
It always felt like he was going to win.
And I think people said that even with the final against Tsitsipas.
Oh,
they just felt,
definitely.
They just felt that he was still going to win. Would you have thought that if it was Nadal or Federer 2 sets down?
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult, but because it was a new finalist, there was always that option.
Djokovic, I think, is the first person to win a Grand Slam having been 2 sets down in two matches.
Yes.
Which I think is amazing. I thought Borg or Connors might have done that, but no. So it's another first for him, isn't it? He's piling up these firsts.
He is. It's crazy. And he has time to keep breaking records. The way that he just switches on for those matches he was 2 sets down is scary. I don't see Federer and Nadal do something like that so easily, because those 2 matches, 4th round and the final, the level that Djokovic reached when he wanted to win, when he said, now it's the time to play tennis, the players didn't know what to do. And I was very disappointed with this Musetti. He was so excited.
Kind words for the,
Oh my
the tennis
God.
newcomer there.
So exciting in the first 2 sets, and then 6-1, 6-love, 4-love. 2 games away from defeat, he gives up.
Because he doesn't think he's going to win, or because he's genuinely injured or tired? Why did he give up?
His body language, everything about him said, I don't want to do this anymore. 2 games away. If he has honor in himself and for the game, he will play those 2 out. And
It's strange, because I can understand it if you're on course to lose 6-love, 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 and you think this is just embarrassing, but he'd actually done very well, hadn't he?
he did. It was very disappointing.
Yeah, it's strange. Just complete the match. You'll get a bit more clapping at the ends. And you never know. You might just hit a shot and Djokovic scrambles for it and injures himself and he
You
pulls
never
out.
know.
I've seen Rocky. There's such things happen in that film.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay, you're not going to win. Try and get your opponent injured. Play a drop shot.
Come on.
Make him run.
Anyway, and then in the final against Tsitsipas, he showed a bit of his colors, didn't he? He didn't completely surrender like the others.
It's a sign of how far he's come on that we are disappointed with him in a match against Djokovic.
In the
It shows the
final. In
high
his first
expectations that we've got for him. I think he's really improved. I think he had a very good tournament. And the fact that Tsitsipas, I feel, went into the Djokovic match going, I really want to win. I want to win. He was very disappointed to have lost. And I didn't see the speeches because ITV4 bizarrely cut away from
What
them
the hell?
to talk about ITV4. It was their last year of the coverage,
That's
which is
strange.
very sad. ITV4 have done a good job, but
I was.
I want to see that. I want to
That
see the
doesn't make any
speeches.
sense.
But no, you were probably watching Eurosport. So
yeah.
how were the speeches?
Yes, it was the first ever speech that I liked from him. He's normally very full of himself, which is good for a tennis player, but he gave a lot of praise to Djokovic.
In fact, there were so many good matches in the French Open, they kind of blend into one. Where forgetting Schwartzman had another good bash at Nadal, I thought, and there was a stage in that match where I was thinking Schwartzman's on top. It's one set all.
It always happens.
If he gets the third set, I think he's going to win.
Yes.
And I'm very excited because Nadal doesn't get involved in 5-set matches.
No.
At the French Open, even this year in that great semi-final, it was 4 sets, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. Schwartzman has been giving good matches against Nadal. Although we already know Nadal is going to win. And how do these matches keep happening all the time? It's always poor Schwartzman meeting Nadal on the way to any tournament.
I remember that. I think I said to you, it's amazing how some players are drawn like a magnet to each other in the draw. It always used to be Henman Sampras at Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about the final. They were always seeded to meet each other in the semi-finals. Schwartzman and Nadal are two of those people who are drawn to each other. There are other examples too in the game. I can't think of them now. But you think, not again. How does this always happen?
Yeah, poor Schwartzman.
I think in the days gone by, 20 years ago, they used to fix the draw a bit to go, that would make a nice quarterfinal.
Yes.
But now it's all kind of done on these weird frozen rankings.
It's
I
very
suppose
strange.
with the frozen rankings, maybe it does draw up the same players against each other.
It's a bit weird, I agree. But well done, Schwartzman. Really great player. Another player that was surprisingly pleasant was Medvedev. He showed finally that when he's patient and when he's connected, he can play on clay.
And he did have the rally of the tournament too, which was his final rally of the tournament, where he did the underarm serve, rushed into the net, and then got past on match points. We had a classic rally, didn't we?
It reminds me of somebody.
we had a classic rally like that the other day, didn't we, David?
You didn't do that on match point.
We didn't, but you topped it by actually lobbing me from my underarm serve, which takes
great.
some doing.
That was good. Yeah, Medvedev.
Enough about me.
Medvedev was... That ending was just whatever, man. It was good. It was an entertaining match, and definitely that rivalry between Tsitsipas and Medvedev is slightly switching.
And they didn't punch each other at the end, did they?
No, they didn't. I think they're more respectful for each other now. Saving for another day. Yeah, we need to see those punches coming.
Maybe a celebrity boxing match on Comic Relief Day.
What about Zverev? What do you think about him?
I think he's really improved. I know he still does do double faults, but I think from where he was 3 years ago, he's getting involved in less 5-set matches. And
True.
The time he did get involved in the 5-set match, I think the first round, I had more confidence than 3 years ago that he was actually going to beat this unseeded player. I think him and Tsitsipas have really improved the last 2 years.
I do feel that Tsitsipas and Zverev, they're rising above slowly, bit by bit. I do think that Medvedev is definitely breaking the spell too. But ultimately, the bosses are always the bosses.
They are. I mean, I'm surprised Zverev is as low as 6, because to me, I see him as a top 4 player, and Thiem has dropped from the clouds, really, hasn't he?
Thiem is the most disappointing. Nowhere man. Thiem is the most disappointing player of the year, probably.
What's gone wrong there? There's an Amazon documentary in that, isn't there?
Yes, and also Thiem pulled out of the Olympics.
Do we know why?
Yeah, exactly that. He says he's not feeling very good.
But how does he know? Because the Olympics is some way off. If he's taking part in
the weirdest thing
it's
ever.
like me phoning in sick the week after next, but working this week. How many times is the Olympics going to come along? It's not like it's once a year or even twice a year like the French Open is.
After he won his first Grand Slam, he completely disconnected from tennis. It's like he's not interested anymore.
It's a real shame, and there's just a space of withdrawals, aren't there? Well, what's happened to Nick Kyrgios too? Where is it? Is he still in
What
self-isolation
is he? It looks like it,
a
isn't it?
koala tree?
What the hell is going
I
on?
mean, why wasn't he at the French? Okay,
He's always at the Grand Slams.
I just don't understand.
Okay, so it says here that the 26-year-old withdrawal from the French Open marks a continuation of his self-imposed exile from the tour.
So
It has to do
mysterious.
with the...
So it's a mysterious, not really explained, because the Australian players have started coming back, haven't they?
Yes.
De Minaur. Nadal missing Wimbledon again, which he does every time he struggles at the French Open. He withdraws from that. I think he's not playing the Olympics either.
Yes.
And that's just, it's weird. I know he was limping a bit at the end of the Djokovic match, wasn't he? But he was playing
yes.
ferocious tennis before that. And it's a shame if he's withdrawn from Wimbledon, Nadal, because he doesn't think he can win it. Because I know he did have a slump for many years where he lost to lower ranked players. I think he'd have a chance at Wimbledon.
And this is not an injury. The funny thing about this, it's almost like it feels like it's Nadal aging faster than Federer.
There have been times when he's looked tired on the court, hasn't he? I can't remember what happened to him at. Was it that Australian Open? Was that the one where he lost from 2 sets up?
I couldn't remember actually, but I do know that when you look at Nadal's body type, game style, as we said before, it's not going to be a style that feels that can last.
The same with Murray, maybe. They're quite thick set, quite muscular.
Now, what about the women? You know, it's funny because I like to talk about some good stories like Azarenka playing really well. I know she's not reaching the championship level yet, but
Well, she wasn't a happy bunny, was she,
Yes.
after getting knocked out this year?
she's playing well. Coco Gauff was a good surprise. We all know that she has skills, but she reached the quarters in style. And of course, the Wonder Girl, Swiatek, was playing something special even this tournament, and suddenly out of nothing she lost her confidence and lost like that. It was very surprising. And I want your opinion on this. I'm just summarizing because in the women's tennis it's a strange place, because did we have 2 Grand Slam finalists as well at the same time for the women's?
2 new Grand Slam finalists.
It wasn't it?
We had 4 new Grand Slam potential finalists in the semi-finals.
In the semi-final.
None of them had ever reached a final before.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, I have mixed emotions. I know I'm being judgmental, but I really am looking for a better story at the women's game. Something a little bit more exciting.
There is no story.
There's no story.
It's like reading a story where the characters change each chapter. And
Exactly.
you get into one person's story and then you never hear of them
You
again.
never hear of them again?
There's
and-
no thread.
I don't even know how to say the names of the finalists.
Neither do I. I don't know how we're going to do it. We might have to Google Translate or something. I cannot say the names because unless a player is regularly successful, you don't get used to their names, so you can't pronounce
and
it.
you don't fall in love for too long.
Yeah, but you can
It's a
say
shame.
Schwantek's name, so that's good. And she did
True.
reach the semi-finals.
Not too bad.
No, she didn't reach the semi-finals.
quarters.
Quarterfinals. I beg your pardon.
Sure.
But when she was on the way to losing, she was moonballing a bit. She was just hitting it high and hoping, and actually getting it out too.
Yes.
So it was quite sad to see that. We forget she's so young.
Young, yes.
It's the pressure of winning it,
Yeah.
of being the favourite too by that stage, wasn't she?
True. She was doing well until the quarters. Suddenly, in the round of 16, she was already losing a bit of confidence, and then suddenly she lost 2 sets to love against Sakari, which beat the supposedly champion and lost right after. I am a bit disappointed. I love women's tennis. There's really good players out there, but none of them can
Where was
create.
Muguruza?
Yes, I know.
Where do they go? They fall down a manhole cover on one of the
It's a
outside
shame.
courts.
I really am waiting for little stories to become bigger, and it's funny, we keep saying this, the world of tennis in men, we are hoping for something, a bit of what's happening in the women's tennis, and in the women's tennis we're hoping that a bit of what's happening in the men's tennis.
Well, let's stay positive
Yeah.
because the winner amazing claim to fame. She won the women's doubles as well.
As
She was
well,
the
that
first
was special.
since Mary Pearson. How difficult is that? Because she started off as a doubles specialist, and I don't know who encouraged her to concentrate a bit more on the singles. But she didn't drop the doubles, did she?
No.
She's the champion as well. And I'm not going to say her name.
Krejcikova.
I'm glad you said that. I know I can pronounce that perfectly, and I wanted
Krejcikova or
to
something like that.
test whether you could pronounce it perfectly.
Probably said it terribly. That is a little bit of a comforting ending to our conversation.
It's lovely because you would think if I reached the ladies' women's final and I was in the doubles final till I was playing the semi-final, I'd probably lose the ladies' doubles semi-final on purpose so I could concentrate. But she did nothing of the sort. She didn't do a Steffi Graf, which is what Steffi Graf did in the mixed doubles at Wimbledon in one of her later years when she withdrew with McEnroe to concentrate on the women's final, which she lost to Lindsay Davenport. She honoured her commitments and it paid off. She won both. I think that's really good.
That's special. Now let's see where this leads her. Will she win another Grand Slam soon?
Call me Mr. Cynical. Yes, in doubles.
In doubles. Other players, Grand Slam winners that were lost in the draw. Kenin, a recent Grand Slam winner.
Sophie Kenin.
Stevens, once a Grand Slam winner.
Stevens, what a good player
dropped
she was.
As well. Serena, she's definitely looking like... It's almost like Federer and Serena are really reaching the end. Their last bit of hope is this Wimbledon coming.
Who did Serena Williams lose to in this tournament, and what stage was it? Because it was looking good for her, wasn't it? She reached the second week.
So Serena lost in the fourth round versus Rybakina.
That's easy for you to say.
Very strong, very tall and powerful player.
Straight sets?
Straight sets, but then she lost after you beat Serena, unfortunately.
Quick mention of Venus. She's got a wild card for Wimbledon, which shows how far down the rankings she's dropped. And with Serena, to answer your question, I find with these fading champions, people often say, well, this is their best chance. You know, for Serena and Roger, it's Wimbledon. But it's often a tournament you least expect, where they're under the radar, where these fading champions do the best. So I just wonder whether that French was a golden opportunity. People didn't really expect her to win. There was almost pressure on her, some of her opponents.
Yeah, she's looking slower than before. She can't chase balls anymore.
I wonder whether the pressure will be on her for Wimbledon a bit more.
True.
And maybe this was the golden opportunity under the radar. Hey, I'm just here for the Parisian
That's
shopping.
That's a good point. And a lot Serena creates pressure on her that is enough for a lot of suffering. So at the Wimbledon is going to be even worse.
Yeah. With Roger, you asked me how the fading of Roger too.
Yes.
We've got to talk about Roger because Roger's French Open, he wasn't expected to enter. It was a great bonus that he did, and he won a few matches, looked in fine fettle in some of the matches, and then he just withdrew, but there was no injury. It was just to protect his body for Wimbledon. What do you think about that?
Yes, you still stand by that he should leave space for other players to come.
So I think it's selfish to enter a tournament and then withdraw unless there is an injury, because Marin Cilic desperately wanted to beat Federer in that match. You know, how did he feel? Oh, I sweated my guts out, and then you withdraw after one more match. How did his last opponent feel, thinking, well, I could have got through. I think if you've got that attitude, just don't enter the tournament. I do think it is taking up space. In his defence, I would say, in Roger Federer's defence, I think a lot of players in the same boat would just pretend they were injured. At least he was honest, maybe foolishly honest, in not saying, oh, my back was playing up, I listened to my body. It's honesty. But you mount your defence of Roger now.
So I agree with you, and I've said this before. Hey, don't play if you give space to other people. But the only points that I put for Roger are, one of them is he is in the unknown at the moment. So he did not know 100% what to expect. Nobody expected him to win the French, but nobody knew how far he could go. And he wanted to start playing tennis. He did not know how he was going to feel.
Yes.
The second thing in his defense is he has done so much for tennis, so much for the beauty of tennis. And he's become such a legend, and he's getting so old for sport that I think the world was more happy to get to see Roger play a few times. And finally, If Cilic wanted to be on the next round, he should have beaten his opponent.
They're all good points.
Yeah, but your point is also very good.
It leaves a blank match in the tournament schedule.
True.
And it's a very big blank match because it was one that Roger Federer would have taken place in.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame. But hey, it's good for his career stats, isn't it? He was unbeaten at the French Open this year. Him and Djokovic were unbeaten at the French Open.
Yes, exactly. It's very difficult to have an opinion, isn't it? Because her situation, it raises a lot of interesting questions about what's going on even with the generations nowadays. Because there is more depression going on with kids these days. The technology has changed the way that kids interact with the world. And so we can put so many points on what Osaka did. Tell me what it was.
Well, what Osaka did was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, before the tournament, she announced she wasn't going to take part in any press conferences.
Yes.
She did this, I think, giving no notice to the Grand Slam organisers or the French Open organisers, and said, I find that being asked the same questions time and time again, I thought it wasn't a great statements coming out of the blue. After that, there was a lot of condemnation. The Grand Slams got together and said, which is unusual that them actually getting together. I think of them as separate entities.
Yes.
And said, we'll offer you the support, but this is part of your duty. And this got echoed time and time again by other players, great retired players and current players. The big thought was this gives a competitive advantage to her. She can opt out of press conferences and afford to take the fines.
And not only, and I'll add that the press conference and the reporters is what generates the money. That's why these guys are known.
But anyway, after this condemnation, she withdrew shortly afterwards before the tournaments began. And she issued another statement then, and this was far more conciliatory, in that she said, I'm sorry, for the hurt I've caused journalists. A lot of them are my friends and I like them. They're nice people. I'm also sorry to the organisers and the fans. This is how I feel at the moment. I'm going to take a break from tennis.
She feels depression.
Yes, I think. And she said she'd been feeling this for
a while.
Several years since she'd won the US Open.
Yes.
I think she was quite specific in the kind of timeline that she gave and said, I felt sick before conferences and... What was your reaction, David? What's your take on it?
At first, I was excited because I felt, okay, maybe Osaka is going to start something new. It's going to start creating a new world of tennis where players are not obliged to be part of press conferences after matches. And I liked that. I was on Osaka's side, definitely. But then all these opinions from lots of players shed a lot of light, and I understood, yes, it's important for tennis for this press conference to exist. And everybody goes through them. So if you want to participate, then you have to be part of it. It was very difficult to choose a side. And then Osaka withdraws, saying that she's depressed. I am not in her place to know what is her state of mind. I was a bit disappointed with it. I don't know what to believe, but we have to see what happens from now on. She's not participating at Wimbledon as well.
Yes, but the Olympics, she'll be back.
You would have to be a friend of Osaka to really know what to say.
I mean, full disclosure, before this whole incident, I wasn't a fan of Osaka. Of course, I'm a fan of her play. She's a fantastic player.
She is.
Arguably the best female player I've ever seen.
Yes.
I think part of the reason I took against her really was she didn't seem to give away too much on court. You couldn't really tell what she was thinking. And yet you felt that she was capable of speaking. I remember after she won a match, someone asked quite a long-winded question on the on-court interview afterwards. And she said, is that even a question? Which I thought was really quite rude.
Yes.
You won the match. You should be in a good mood. And you're taking the mick out of this poor journalist guy. Okay, it wasn't a great question. But... my God, you're in such a privileged position. If someone asked me a stupid question after I'd won a Grand Slam match, I would just laugh and I'd hug the guy. I'd be so happy to have won. So when she came out with a statement, I thought, I know people at work who get out of doing jobs they don't like, and it's not fair,
Yes.
We're under contract to do these things. You can't pick and choose what part of the job you do. But when her statement came out after she withdrew, I thought it was a really sweet statement. It seemed to have something of
Thoughtful.
you had to give the benefit of the doubt that she did do it, because it seemed like the statement of a young 20-year-old. And I thought it was a very good statement. If it was written for her, it was a really good one. And as her statements suggested, maybe think about ways to make it easier for all the players, young and old, to not have their mistakes magnified after a loss, or after a victory, or after a contentious incident which happened in the heat of the moment in front of millions of fans. So do you think, how can we make it better? Are there any changes which could happen to avoid something like this happening again?
Yes, maybe there can be created a few new ground rules for the press conferences.
My suggestion would be, I think back in the days when I watched, you wouldn't get an on-court interview after a match. That would not happen. Even in the final of Wimbledon, they would present the trophy to Bjorn Borg.
Yeah.
I didn't know how Bjorn Borg spoke. And it created a mystery. The Borg was this, can he even speak? And it was a real enigma. And I knew how McEnroe spoke, but only because he was shouting at umpires.
Yes.
I never really want to hear what the players say after a match. I'm just not that interested. I want to watch the match. So I would say, you notice with the on-court interviews, they only interview the winner after the match. And I think maybe therein is the solution. The same with press conferences. Only interview the winner. There's no obligation on the loser to take part in a press conference after the match, especially so soon after losing, unless they want to, and just reorganise that prize money to reflect that. If the TV companies want to say, okay, well, we're not speaking to the loser, we'll pay you less, well, fine, there's a solution there. The top players can accept a little less of the TV pot,
Yes.
or they can share it out differently, or they can raise the ticket prices a bit. There are solutions to that, but I don't think the losers should have to speak after the match.
I like that suggestion a lot. I actually love the stories after the matches, on contrary to you.
Do you always watch the on-court interview and try and watch the press conference too?
Always try, yes. Because I have a lot of interest in, not on always the same questions, but I'm always looking for a piece of the personalities of my heroes or the people that I'm interested in to come out. And
the personality is really there on court, isn't it?
It definitely is, but when you're speaking, your personality also shows in a different way. You know, Federer doesn't speak much on court, but then when he speaks, he has a different kind of beauty than when he's playing. I do like to follow the, let's say, the soap operas of these tennis players in and out of the court.
Yeah.
It was a good tournament. Do you have any final thoughts about this French Open? And any final thoughts about what's about to come with Wimbledon?
I've always got too many thoughts in my head to contain. So maybe I'll leave you just with a couple. I think the night match is unfortunately a great idea at the French Open, but they didn't really work. I know we're in exceptional times. Without the audience there, it did seem a bit dead. I'm glad there wasn't canned applause during the TV coverage.
At least.
I actually agree with Victoria Azarenka, who after she lost said, why did the women not get hardly any night matches?
True.
I think they got 2 in the whole tournament.
Yes.
And one of those was after Victoria Azarenka complained. Didn't really work. And I'm really looking forward to Wimbledon. Isn't it amazing how the French Open and Wimbledon's packed into such a short period of time? I wish the grass court season was as long as the clay court season.
Yes, it's unfair.
And Djokovic is getting there, isn't he? He's on 19. There's got to be a twist in the tail. Wouldn't it be amazing if the twist in the tail was Roger Federer somehow getting 1 extra and increasing that gap?
Wouldn't that be great? So what's your prediction for the women's and men's champions this year for Wimbledon?
So if Djokovic can get through a big server, he's going to face one surely in one of the early rounds, I think he could go all the way. And I'm going to go, my heart's going to rule my head. I'm Muguruza.
Okay. Yes, for women's, I'm completely blank. I have no idea who's going to win Wimbledon.
Azarenka?
I like
Vika?
that. Let's go with Azarenka. Thank you. Because I like her very much. Let's go with Azarenka. And for men, Djokovic, unfortunately.
And if not Djokovic?
Federer.
I've just got a feeling.
Let's go.
I've got a feeling it's going to be Djokovic, Federer in the final, but this time it's going to be straight sets. I think Federer's big chance was that 5-set set one. We're ending on such a downbeat note.
Not because I have one final question for you. Did you see what happened in Germany in this grass tournament? In between games, there's a live band. It's not a radio or a DJ anymore.
Where are the live bands?
They're like up above somewhere.
That's incredible. They look like a happy bunch, don't they? You're not a fan of music, tennis?
Not at all. But now with the band, is tennis now becoming a double show?
I love tradition. I know you've got to change things sometimes. And hey, Hawkeye was new, and I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
So maybe this will be the new Hawkeye. Maybe they'll have a band play before match points just to break things up.
So here's another question. Are you going to the tennis match to watch the live band or to watch tennis?
Well, it really depends. It depends who the bands are. I'd be worried.
What if it's your favorite band that's going to play in between the tennis games?
That would be heaven. But would all my favorite band's fans be into tennis? Would all tennis fans be into my favorite band? I don't know if... Do you like the Nolan sisters? I mean, is there going to be that crossover?
Exactly.
You've probably never heard of the Nolan sisters, have you?
Never.
Well, check them out.
Yeah.
They'll change your life.
Let's see if this idea picks up on other tournaments or not.
You heard it here first.
Yes, that's a first for me as well. Okay, so Djokovic, astonishing.
Unbeatable.
The god of tennis. Thank you very much, Jim, for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll see
stay
each other
safe.
in the next episode.